Part 7. Group Pet Koi Little Baby, She is Soft and Sweet. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 61. Chapter 61 I Want to Cry. Yubao was so sleepy that he couldn't open his eyes, but he still managed to get up from the bed, rummaged through the small bag he carried with him, and finally took out a bell and handed it to Lu Su. Brother, hang this on the window, when it comes, the bell will ring. Siesui. So what? She doesn't think that with this thing, everyone can feel at ease, right? Why does he feel so unreliable? Lu Su, on the other hand, took the bell and said, I understand, go to sleep. Xiaobao slipped into bed and closed her eyes. The three members of the Xie family were left looking at each other. Siesui wanted to pull her up, shake her, and ask her, what should they do? You're not really going to just sit there and wait for ghosts to come to your door, are you? However, seeing Lu Su watching eagerly from the side, he gave up the idea instantly. Forget it, he was afraid that if he really did this, some guy who valued his sister over his friends would fall out with him. No, why did he start to believe the lies told by the little girl? Siesui looked at the little man on the bed, feeling angry and funny for a moment. With the help of this girl, they made their hearts lift, and he slept peacefully. What a heartless little girl. Fortunately, the family arranged a high-end VIP ward for him. In addition to the bed, the room also had a sofa. The only bed has been given to that girl, and the others can only squeeze in on the sofa. At 12 o'clock in the middle of the night, the lights in the whole city dimmed, and even the hospital became quiet. Suddenly a crisp ringing sound rang. I saw the bell hanging in the window, shaking in the wind. Everyone's hair stood up all of a sudden. It's not really that thing, is it? Siesui was halfway through the game and jumped up from the sofa in shock, staring in the direction of the window with wide eyes. As his words fell, the ringing became more rapid. Siesui shook his hands and pushed Lu Su next to him. Quickly, wake up your sister just now. He had vowed not to believe that there were ghosts in the world, but at this moment, he was scared. Faster than anyone else. Before Lu Su could speak, he saw the little man on the bed sitting up, rubbing his eyes. Yobao glanced in the direction of the window and said, Hey, we're finally here. The soft little milky voice has a hint of coquettishness as if she just woke up. Everyone's heart was trembling. They really couldn't believe that she could deal with ghosts like this. Did they trust her too easily? What if she fails? But it seems that if you don't believe it, there is no other way. Now you can only treat a dead horse as a living horse, doctor. As Yubao finished speaking, everyone saw a black shadow slowly appear on the window of the hospital ward. Everyone went numb instantly. This is the 27th floor, and the thing that appears outside the window cannot be a human being. So, are there really ghosts? The next second, with the laughter of he he he, the ghost turned into black smoke and slowly got in through the gap in the window, and then slowly condensed into the shape of a person. Thinking that no one could see it, it first walked around to Siesui, made a face next to him, then flew behind him and blew on his neck. Having a great time. Huh. It turned out that he was still a playful person. Yubao blinked, turned to look at Siesui and said, Brother Xie, he seems to like you quite a bit. Siesui. Siesui was already numb by now. His body seemed to be trapped by something and he couldn't move. His legs were shaking like a sieve. I just want to cry. End of this chapter. Group Pet Koi Little Baby, She is Soft and Sweet. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 62. Chapter 62, My heart seems to have been torn open. Lu Su was relatively calm, but this was the first time he had seen such a scene. After all, a teenager had no idea what to do when faced with an unknown species in front of him. Both father and mother turned pale. Seeing the thing entangled with their son, they wanted to step forward but did not dare. They could only look in the direction of Yubao with hope and begging. I saw Yubao taking out a bunch of talismans from a small bag, picking out one and throwing it at Siesui. The ghost instantly felt an invisible pressure between it and the human in front of it. Sister Yubao, help me! Siesui felt a lightness all over his body, and his feet seemed to have strength. He screamed, held his head and hid behind Yubao. Yubao stuffed the remaining talismans into Lu Su's hands and said, "Brother, find a place to hide and protect yourself." Then he took out a peachwood sword from her small bag. Lu Su looked at the pile of talisman papers in his hand with a complicated expression. He raised his eyes and warned her, be careful." Yubao held a peachwood sword in his hand, smiled sweetly at him and said, "Don't worry, brother." Yubao said that he will protect my brother. Lu Su was startled for a moment, feeling as if his heart had been torn open and boiling hot iron poured into it. The ice surrounding his heart suddenly shattered. Good. This time, let the little cub protect him. From now on, he, the older brother, will protect her. Lu Su stared closely in the direction of Yubao, and suddenly felt that his hand was empty, and he saw that half of the talisman in his hand was missing. Turning his head, he saw Siesui squeezed in beside him at some point and was pulling him into his arms unceremoniously. Although I don't know what the use of these talismans is, I feel very safe just looking at them. I wanted to take 2 more, but Lu Su slapped them away hard. That's almost enough. My sister gave them to me. Siesui licked his face and said, "We are all good brothers, and we will share half of it when we meet. Don't worry, if you can escape tonight, Sister Yubao will be my biological sister from now on, and you will be my biological brother. As long as it is useful, I will go through fire and water to protect my brother, no matter what." Lu Su glanced at him and said, "It's enough for my sister to have a brother of mine, and she doesn't need you." Siesui. Is he being disliked? At this moment, in the middle of the ward, I saw Xiao Yubao holding a mahogany sword, pointing at the ghost figure, and the little girl said in a soft voice, "People have their own humanity, and ghosts have their own ways. Why are you pestering brothers yet? Hey, can you see me? Come and play with me." The ghost figure slowly turned its head to look at Yubao, as if it had discovered a new toy, and flew to Yubao. Before it even got close, it was knocked back by the abundant spiritual power on the Daomu sword. This was a new ghost who had just died and didn't understand anything yet. He glanced at the peachwood sword in Yubao's hand with some fear and didn't dare to approach easily. Then he looked at Siesui behind her without giving up and changed, and she rushed towards him, muttering, "Are you here to play with me? Come and play with me. Come and play with me." Siesui suddenly met the opponent's grimace and was frightened. He hurriedly hid behind Lu Su, holding up the talisman and chanting, "You can't see me, you can't see me. Lu Su." However, his mumbling had no effect, and the ghost was getting closer and closer to him. Seeing that he was about to rush towards him, Siesui became nervous and threw out all the talismans in his hand. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Group Pet Koi Little Baby, she is soft and sweet. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 63. Chapter 63. The baby is miserable, the baby is tired, the baby is so poor that he has to eat dirt. 7 or 8 pieces of talisman flew towards the ghost figure together, and then a bang was heard, scattering the ghost figure in just an instant. Siesui looked at his hands with a shocked expression. Are these talismans so powerful? Yubao has been focusing on the talisman and seal these days, and his technique of drawing talismans has become more and more proficient. The first level talisman will basically never fail again. Therefore, I have accumulated a lot of talismans, including some second level talismans. In addition, the opponent's ghost power is insufficient, which makes the talismans appear powerful. Actually, most of the talismans she just gave to her brother were defensive talismans. As long as they were held in her hand, the ghost would not dare to get close, but the other side would scatter so many at once. Xiao Yubao looked heartbroken, as if he saw a lot of money gone. But it didn't take long for everyone to be happy, and the ghosts quickly gathered together again. Xie Sui looked at himself with empty hands and was dumbfounded. Subconsciously he looked at Lu Su. No, brother, lend me 2 more talisman papers. Lu Su, however, put the remaining talisman papers into his pocket, leaving only 2 in his hand, preparing one for each person to use to save his life. He has just seen that these talismans cannot really kill the ghost, at most they can prevent it from getting close to him. Thinking of his sister's white and tender little hands and how hard it was to draw these talisman papers, he didn't plan to use them all to show off to the other party. Xie Sui looked at the lone magic talisman in his hand and felt very insecure. He turned to Yubao for help. Sister Yubao, hurry up, take him in quickly. Yubao got it, Xiao Nabao responded crisply. Turning around, she raised her mahogany sword and struck at the ghost shadow, while chanting the ghost exorcism spell that Xiao Jin had just taught her. 5 stars suppress the color, illuminate the mysterious world. Thousands of gods and saints, protect my true spirit. Giant beasts in the sky, the 5 soldiers were subdued. Wherever the demons died, all gods followed them. Ghost Shadow suddenly felt countless pressures coming from all directions. Subconsciously, he wanted to run away, but saw Yubao taking the opportunity to throw out a 5 thunder ghost suppressing talisman. The ghost was instantly trapped in place and unable to move. Yubao raised his mahogany sword and hit the ghost on the head. He said in a sweet voice, "You can't run away now. I want you to scare people and make you misbehave. Why don't you tell me why you are pestering Brother Xie?" "Huh, why should I tell you? This person is not only a playful person, but also an arrogant person." Yubao blinked his eyes and said, "Are you sure you don't want to say anything?" Yubao can not only recite the ghost expelling curse, but also the ghost killing curse. Although he had a very cute little face, what he said was extremely cruel. The ghost couldn't help but trembled. Forget it, I can't afford to offend him, I can't afford to offend him," and then he spoke in frustration. It turned out that this was a new ghost that had just died. He was playful during his lifetime and sneaked into the newly developed artificial reservoir of the resort to play in the past 2 days. He accidentally fell into the reservoir and drowned. His body has not been found yet. I happened to meet Xie Sui and went to the reservoir, thinking that the young man was going to play with me in order to entangle him. Once he heard that people had drowned in the resort's reservoir, Xie's father was shocked. The resort was about to open. If the news of people drowning in the reservoir suddenly came out at this time, it would definitely greatly affect the reputation of the resort. Regardless of the fact that it was past midnight, Father Xie immediately called the person in charge of the resort. Require the other party to do the work of recovering the body and subsequent comfort work overnight, and must not let anyone make a fuss about it. After explaining all this, Father Xie looked at Yubao as if he were his savior. In other words, this girl did save her son's life. Not only that, she also indirectly helped their family a big favor. He is simply the nobleman of their family. As for the new ghost, because it was just for fun, Yubao kindly took it away before it could harm anyone, and locked it up with the resentful spirits in the Peachwood sword, planning to send them to be reincarnated together when the opportunity arises. At this point, Yubao not only subdued a ghost, but also subdued his own brother and a brother with a foreign surname who was forcibly sent to his door. Well, early in the morning, Gu Xingzi saw the ugly dumpling next door squatting on the ground and sighing. The bun's face was wrinkled into a small steamed bun. After conquering the new ghost last night, Father Xie drove the 2 of them home in person. Yubao slept like a little piggy in the car, and was finally carried out of the car by Lu Su. He didn't even know when he got home. When I woke up from a full sleep the next day, I couldn't help but feel worried when I thought about the little ghost I had acquired last night. Now there are 7 resentful spirits and a new ghost living in her small wooden sword. I don't know if it will be crowded, but she has not yet learned how to send them to reincarnation. What if we encounter something else next time? If this continues, Xiaomujian will hardly be able to stay any longer. It's so distressing. System: as long as the host quickly learns the contents of the ancient seal script, it can send them to reincarnation and reincarnation. Yo Bao, she also wants to learn it quickly, but it's really difficult. She is still a baby and has to learn so many things every day. The baby is miserable, the baby is tired, and the baby is so poor that she has to eat dirt. What's wrong with you? Suddenly a voice sounded above her head. Yubao raised his head and saw Gu Xingzi. Just as he was about to speak, he heard a familiar voice in his head. Congratulations to the host, for conquering the new ghost and completing the mission of rescuing people and doing good deeds. The reward points are 5,000 points and the remaining points are 7,000 points. Looking at the balance of points in the system, Yubao felt somewhat comforted. Although it is not worth mentioning compared to the exchange value of the products in the system mall, mosquito legs are still meat no matter how small they are. There was finally a smile on the wrinkled face. Yubao got up from the ground, took his hand and said, "Wake up, are you here to bring me some snacks?" Gu Xingzi shook his head, "There are no snacks today." Oh, Yubao's little face instantly became disappointed. Gu Xingzi looked at her and said, "My grandpa is sick, and my mother went to the hospital to take care of him. She hasn't had snacks these past few days. Mr. Gu has been in poor health since he was young and spent most of his time in the hospital. After moving here from Yubao, we haven't seen each other yet. Is your grandfather's illness serious?" Gu Xingzi didn't know whether his grandfather's illness was serious or not. He only knew that his grandfather had been living in the hospital and his health was not good. "How about we go see him?" Yubao suggested. Gu Xingzi glanced at her, a little surprised by her suggestion. In fact, he just went to the hospital to see his grandfather 2 days ago, but looking at the way Yubao Baba looked at him, he finally nodded. The driver was originally going to take them to kindergarten, but Gu Xingzi asked him to take them to the hospital halfway. After asking Ning Sheng on the phone, the driver finally parked the car in front of the hospital. Yo Bao got out of the car and looked in the direction of the inpatient department of the hospital, unable to help but blink. "Hey, why are you here again?" End of this chapter. Group Pet Koi Little Baby, she is soft and sweet. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 64. Chapter 64 Bringing my daughter-in-law to meet her parents. Gu Xingzi saw her standing still and walked over to hold her little hand. Xiao Yubao looked at the inpatient department shrouded in black air, and the little bun said with a rare serious face, "It's not good here, let's let Grandpa Gu go home to recuperate." Xiao Jin just told her that the hospital is full of dark air, and there are many people living in it. Ghosts, weak people are easily targeted by these ghosts. Young Master Gu looked at her doubtfully. Yo Bao told him that there was a very powerful thing living here that could the life out of people. Grandpa Gu will get worse and worse if he lives here. Young Master Gu glanced at her and then at the hospital in front of him. A trace of solemnity flashed across his stern face. Finally he nodded and said, "Let's go talk to the adults." The two of them were both pretty, and they walked hand in hand to the inpatient department, attracting the attention of many people along the way. I don't know which family is so lucky to have such a pair of beautiful children. In the ward, Mr. Gu was lying on the hospital bed. He was not in good spirits, and there was a faint air of death about him. "If you continue to live here, your life will be in danger within half a month." Seeing the eldest grandson and a soft little girl walking in hand, his pale face became a little more angry. "Grandpa's dear grandson, why are you here? I'm bringing Yu Bao to see Grandpa. Gu Xingzi led Yu Bao forward, feeling quite like he was bringing his daughter-in-law to meet her parents. Seeing, Yu and Yu Bao chat with Grandpa. Mommy is going to the doctor's. Uncle Ning Sheng, with a trace of sadness on her brows, forced a smile at Gu Xingzi and Yu Bao. Seeing that the old man has been in the hospital for so long, not only has his health not improved, but he seems to be even worse mentally. It is inevitable for children to feel worried. Gu Xingzi nodded, frowned when he thought about what Yu Bao said about being discharged from the hospital just now, and wanted to follow him out, but when he saw that Yu Bao and the old man were the only ones left in the ward, he paused and decided to talk to the other party later. Are you Yu Bao? The old man's eyes fell on Yu Bao. She has a fair and tender little bun face, big dark eyes that are very aura, and two little hairpins on her head, which makes her look soft and cute. At first glance, she looks like a lucky little girl. Then his eyes fell on his eldest grandson. Not to mention, the two little babies seemed to be quite compatible. When he was discharged from the hospital one day, he could talk to the old man Lu next door and arrange a baby kiss. I just don't know if he will have that day. Hello, Grandpa. Yu Bao's tongue is soft and waxy, with a sweet mouth and is easy to like. Coupled with the Koi's physique, he is naturally approachable. Mr. Gu was no exception. He had already listed her as a candidate for his granddaughter-in-law when they met for the first time. At this moment, he was even more doting on her for fear of scaring her. Okay, good boy, come on, come closer, let me. Grandpa Gu, take a good look. Yu Bao walked up to him and took the initiative to hold Mr. Gu's hand with his little hand. He said in a sweet voice, Yu Bao, help Grandpa blow it, and the disease will fly away. As he said this, he really blew on the back of the old man's hand. Twice. Mr. Gu couldn't help but laugh. This kid is so considerate. I don't know if it was his imagination, but I really felt refreshed. Since being hospitalized, he has not felt so relaxed for a long time. The old man felt happy, raised his hand and touched Yu Bao's furry little head. Usually it takes a lot of effort to do this action, but today I don't know if it's because I'm so happy to see this child, but it doesn't feel strenuous at all. Looking at the little girl in front of him, Mr. Gu's eyes were filled with tears. Old man Lu is indeed a lucky man. He has many children and grandchildren. His family is just a bunch of brats, but he has such a sweet little granddaughter. The grandson and great-grandson belong to someone else's family, so no matter how greedy he is, there's nothing he can do about it. As for this soft little granddaughter, his old Gu family can think of a way to take her home. End of this chapter. Group Pet Koi Little Baby, she is soft and sweet. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 65. Chapter 65. Not to be far behind. Ning Sheng's face turned even worse after coming out of the doctor's office. Even if she forced a smile on her face, it could be seen that she was feeling heavy. Young Master Gu frowned, walked up to her and said, Mom, shall we take Grandpa out of the hospital? Ning Sheng raised her head, glanced at him with a complicated expression and said, You kid, what are you talking about? Young Master Gu has a stern face and a serious expression. I'm not talking nonsense. The hospital can't cure Grandpa's disease at all. Let's take Grandpa home. Maybe Grandpa's disease will be cured. Grandpa's health was obviously worse than when he last visited him. But at the beginning, it was obvious that Grandpa just had some minor problems, and even after being in the hospital for so long, he didn't get better. It seems that what Yu Bao said is true. There are indeed things in the hospital that are not conducive to Grandpa's recovery. In this case, it is better to take Grandpa home early. Godmother, let's take Grandpa Gu home. Yu Bao also ran over, took Ning Sheng's hand, and said softly, Didn't Godmother say that Yu Bao is a little lucky star? Yu Bao is taking care of you. Grandpa will definitely get better soon. This, A trace of embarrassment flashed across Ning Sheng's face. In fact, she just went to ask the old man's attending doctor. The doctor also said that the old man's condition has not improved recently, but has become worse and worse, and the hospital has no better solution. But being discharged from the hospital is a big deal, and you can't just decide it at will just because of the words of the two little guys. What if something goes wrong? Just listen to the children. Go and help me get discharged from the hospital now. Mr. Gu, who was lying on the hospital bed, suddenly also spoke. Dad, why are you doing this nonsense too? Ning Sheng frowned and turned around to look at Mr. Gu. Although the old man's condition has not improved, at least the medical equipment in the hospital is complete, which is always better than at home. The old man said, I know my own health well, and continuing to stay in the hospital is a waste of time. It is better to go home and spend more time with my sweet grandson and our little baby. When it comes to the two children, the old man's eyes are obviously more loving. Ning Sheng still didn't let go. Dad, if you want to see Xing and Yubeo, I'll ask my two children to come to the hospital to see you after school every day. After all, the hospital has professional medical staff. If you feel uncomfortable, they can help you for the first time discovered at once. No, I'll leave the hospital as soon as I say. Why, you don't even listen to me anymore, Mr. Gu said with a serious face. Actually, he had long been tired of staying in the hospital. His grandson was right. Since the hospital couldn't cure his illness, he might as well go home. At least I can live a more comfortable life. You can also talk to Mr. Liu about the baby's marriage. Seeing the old man's insistence, Ning Sheng had no choice but to go through the discharge procedures. The moment he walked out of the hospital, Mr. Gu felt that his whole body felt much lighter. No wonder people say that you will get sick if you stay in the hospital for a long time without being sick. It is impossible to say that my illness was caused by being in the hospital. You don't think as much as my good grandson. Grandpa Gu, there's me. Xiao Yubeo immediately raised his hand, not to be outdone. She was the one who came up with the idea of releasing Grandpa Gu from the hospital. Yes, and our little one, you are both grandsons of Grandpa, Mr. Gu said with a smile. Not only did he have more smiles on his face, but he also felt a little more energetic. Ning Sheng looked at it and felt that being discharged from the hospital might not be such a bad thing. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Group Pet Koi Little Baby, she is soft and sweet. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 66. Chapter 66, Discovered, Come to the Door. At the same time, the CAO family ward. CAO Mingxing, the eldest grandson of Mr. CAO, hurriedly walked in from the outside and said, Dad, I heard that a patient in the next ward suddenly fell into a coma yesterday, and the doctor could not find any results. But for some reason, he suddenly woke up in the middle of the night yesterday. He was discharged early in the morning. Dad, I suspect that the man's condition is the same as Grandpa's. Maybe he asks some expert for help. Why don't we go and ask? There is only one Mr. CAO among the 3 generations of the CAO family, and the next generation is not as good as the previous generation. Although CAO-kun has mediocre qualifications, he is still somewhat motivated and knows how to work hard. But his eldest grandson is not doing his job properly all day long. A man in his 20s still does not have a serious job. The old man has fallen ill, and he is still fooling around with people in the bar. After CAO-kun called and threatened to cut off his credit card, he showed up at the hospital obediently. Even though he was like this, he was restless. He didn't stay in the ward for 3 minutes before he ran to the front desk to flirt with the little nurses. However, he unexpectedly learned about Siesui from their mouths. If he didn't, he would run back to his father immediately. How boring it is in the hospital. I thought that if the old man could wake up, he wouldn't have to stay here anymore. Wouldn't it be good if master knew about this? Cao Khan hesitated. Cao Min was obviously quite disdainful of the master his father called him. He snorted coldly and said, "If you really are a master, you won't be able to suppress the souls of a few animals. I think you and my grandfather were probably, the other party was lied to." "Okay, don't talk nonsense," Cao Khan glared at his son. "In fact, I have some opinions about that Taoist priest. I heard the old man mention the other party before, and I thought he had real abilities, but who knew it was nothing more than that. After charging them so much money, they couldn't even capture the souls of a few animals. Only a pill that was said to be a life-saving pill was left behind, and the person disappeared. If it hadn't been for the fact that the old man's situation had indeed stabilized after taking the pill, he might have thought that the other party was a liar. Cao Khan has been troubled by Mr. Cao's illness for the past 2 days. There has been no progress in his promotion, and the old man has been unconscious. Although the news his son has come back from is not necessarily useful, it is still a hope." After thinking for a moment, he relented and said, "Go and inquire carefully about the specific situation of the patient next door. It would be best if you can find out his address." Cao Min raised his eyebrows and said with a proud expression, "I've asked you clearly about this. By coincidence, the other party actually lives over there in the old house. Could it be that those things from our house ran out and collided with each other? Otherwise he wouldn't have run back in such a hurry." Cao Khan was silent, which was indeed a coincidence. After a while he said, "Which company were you talking about just now?" "Cao Min, it is said that his surname is Xie." That afternoon, Cao Khan personally visited Xie's house with gifts. "Are you, brother Cao?" "It's me. I haven't seen you for more than 20 years. I didn't expect brother Xie to still remember me, so he took the liberty to come to bother me today." "Brother Cao, you are so polite. We are all old neighbors and we should have more contact with each other. The Cao family is engaged in medicine and the Xie family is engaged in business. There is no close friendship between the two families. But we both lived in the same community more than 20 years ago. Although we didn't have much contact with each other on weekdays, there was always some affection between the neighbors. It's just that the Cao family suddenly came to the door, and both father and mother were confused. To be honest, my father suddenly fell ill 2 days ago and fell into a coma. Even the hospital couldn't find the cause. I heard that your young master was also in the hospital yesterday. I wonder how he is doing now," Cao Khan asked tentatively. Xie's father and Xie's mother looked at each other and instantly understood the other's intention. The Xie family has also heard about the Cao family's old residence. I heard that some time ago, a pile of animal bones were found in the basement of the Cao family's old house, and a Taoist priest was specially invited to make them 2 days ago. I heard that Mr. Cao was in the same situation as his son. Could it be that he was also caught up in something? The other party wanted to come here this time for the child of the Lu family, but he was still a child after all. What's more, the kid from the Lu family specifically told him before he left that this matter should not be spread outside. He probably didn't want the child to be harmed. Ability to be known by others. I think it was because of his friendship with my brat that I let him take action last night. That child saved their boy's life. They haven't figured out how to thank him yet, so they won't be ungrateful and tell the story. I just didn't expect that the Cao family would suddenly come to my door. Haha, that kid is just feeling a little unwell, and he's fine now." Father Xie was inconvenient to answer, so he had to laugh. Cao Khan couldn't help but frowned when he heard this. He didn't believe that the other party couldn't understand what he meant. Seeing that the other party refused to answer directly, he simply pointed out, "I heard that Master Xie's condition is very similar to that of his father. He was also unconscious and the cause of the disease could not be found. I don't know how he woke up later. Come. This, Father Xie showed a troubled expression. When Cao Kun saw this, he made a guess and said, Brother Xie, is it inconvenient to tell you? Father Xie said, this is really inconvenient. I understand what Brother Cao means, and I also know why Brother Cao is here today. To be honest, the situation of my boy is indeed a bit special. Fortunately, he got the help of the master. Escaped. However, the master has given instructions and it is not convenient for us to disclose her situation at will. Well, how about I help Brother Cao and you ask? If the master is willing to come forward, I will help you, Brother Cao, to get a lead from it. If it doesn't work, I hope Brother Cao won't blame me. Cao Kun knew that he wouldn't be able to ask anything if he stayed any longer. Okay, thank you brother. Please also tell the master that as long as my father can be saved, the Cao family will be very grateful. Xie's father sent Cao Kun out the door and turned around to look at Xie's mother. The two discussed it for a while and finally decided that the brat had to come forward in this matter. Xie Sui, who received a call from his father, glanced at a good brother next to him, cleared his voice and said, Ahem, did you hear about what happened to the Cao family some time ago? Lu Su, if you fart, let it go. Xie Sui. I heard that Mr. Cao is ill, and the situation is similar to mine last night. I guess he must have done too many evil things, and the souls of those little animals have come to seek revenge on him. Lu Su raised his head and glanced at him impatiently. What exactly do you want to say? This guy would not mention the Cao family for no reason, especially after just answering the phone. Xie Sui faced the other party's scrutinizing eyes and said bravely, it's just that Cao family heard about me being unconscious last night. Why didn't they come to their door? Look, do you want me to let you know? Is our little sister Yobeo going out? End of this chapter. Group Pet Koi Little Baby, she is soft and sweet. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 67. Chapter 67. How could his sweet and soft little granddaughter be able to catch ghosts? My sister is not a Taoist priest. Lu Su refused without thinking. Xie Sui expected that the other party would refuse. Xie Suxin smiled and said, of course I know that my sister Yubeo is not a Taoist priest. Isn't this an opportunity to make money? My dad said that as long as sister Yubeo is willing to come to the door, the Cao family will be grateful. Besides, you don't want to know your last name. Is that old man Cao entangled with something? He didn't want to help Cao, he was just curious. I heard that there are differences between ghosts and monsters, but I don't know what the thing that haunts the other person looks like. Lu Su, I don't want to. What does the life and death of others have to do with him? If it weren't for the fact that the two of them had grown up together, he wouldn't even want to let the little boy risk his life to save him. As for other people, it is even less possible. Then, don't refuse in a hurry. Why don't you ask Sister Yubeo? I heard that old man Cao is dying. If your sister saves him, the Cao family's reward will definitely be huge. Lu Su said unwillingly. Do you think my family is short of money? Even if it is short of money, it is not the kid's turn to earn it. It's not a matter of money. He felt that the little girl from the Lu family might be interested in this matter. Lu Su interrupted him directly, okay, no need to say any more, this matter is not up for discussion. Speaking of which, my sister saved your life, what are you going to get in return? Xie Sui immediately patted his chest and said, don't worry, I will definitely not forget Sister Yubeo's life-saving grace. From now on, my life will belong to you two brothers and sisters. Lu Su, what's the point of taking your life? Xie Sui said humbly, then, shall I give you money? In fact, my parents have been preparing thank you gifts early in the morning. They will definitely not lose Sister Yubeo. In addition to the thank you gifts, there must be money. I just haven't thought about how much I should give. After all, it was his life. Lusu, that's pretty much it. He didn't think there was anything wrong with what he did. The little kid worked so hard, sacrificed his sleeping time to help, and took such a big risk. Of course, the brother had to help her get benefits. You should find a way to deal with this matter. I don't want to. Xie then turned around and called his father. Okay, I'll go talk to the Cao family. Father Xie said he understood. After all, he saved his son's life. Even if it offended someone, he still had to deal with it. By the way, Dad, remember to leave 2 rooms for me on the day the resort opens. I plan to take Lusu and Xiao Yubeo to the resort for 2 days. Xie Sui followed up. The life-saving grace must not be repaid with money and gifts. Xie Suidu has already thought about it. From now on, Yubeo will be his biological sister. Naturally, he should not forget her if good things happen. What's more, the little bun is so powerful, it's definitely right to hug your thighs tightly. Xie's father said, okay, I'll let someone give you the best room. What a son can think of, how could a father not think of it? How could a person with such ability be an ordinary person? If his son could really make friends, it would be his blessing. By the way, how are you preparing the thank you gifts for the Lu family? Don't forget to send them over early. They saved your son's life. The thank you gifts should be generous. Also, you should prepare more money. Xie then remembered the thank you gift and warned him again, I heard that this kind of money is indispensable. It has to be worth your son's life. You don't want your son to harm his moral character, right? He didn't believe in ghosts and gods before, let alone any evil spirits, but after last night, whoever told him that there were no ghosts in the world would worry him. I know, do you still need to talk about this kind of thing? Father Xie said impatiently. Can he still be less understanding of the world than the brat? In the afternoon of the same day, Mr. and Mrs. Xie came to visit me carrying heavy gifts. Yo-Yo's father and mother were not at home, so Mr. Lu personally received them. At that time, the old man Gu next door was staying at home and refused to leave, insisting on getting married to him. He has such a precious granddaughter, how can he be given to another family so easily? Mr. Lu will not let go no matter what. Although the eldest grandson of the Gu family next door looks good now, who knows what he will be like when he grows up and whether he will be worthy of his little baby. The old man was very shameless and said that if he didn't agree, he would stay at his Lu's house. His time is short anyway. If he cannot see his eldest grandson getting married before he dies, he will die with peace of mind. It made Mr. Lu very angry. I have never seen someone come to your door to force someone to marry you these days. Besides, he saw that old man Gu was in good spirits. He had already resorted to all sorts of tricks, so how could he look like a short-lived man? By the way, Mr. Gu felt much better as soon as he was discharged from the hospital. By the time he got home, he could get out of the car and walk around on his own. Compared to when he was in the hospital, he felt like a different person. No, the first thing I did after leaving the hospital was to discuss the engagement of the 2 children with Mr. Lu. Even the decades-long friendship between the 2 families was moved out. Who would have thought that this old man Lu was as dumb as a stone in the pit, refusing to answer anything he said. However, having said that, if he had such a well-behaved and lovable little granddaughter, he would not be willing to give it to someone else so early. Hearing that the Xie family and his wife came to the door, Mr. Lu left Mr. Gu and went to the front. Mr. Gu just listened and heard that the servants of the Lu family said that they came to thank the granddaughter of the Lu family. When he heard that it was related to his future grandson-in-law, Mr. Gu didn't shy away and followed her directly. During this period, Mr. Lu got several looks from his eyes, but he just pretended that he couldn't see it. Having half of his body buried in the earth, he still cares about his face. Naturally, it is more important to help his grandson find a granddaughter-in-law. In the living room of the Lu family, Mr. Lu heard that Yubeo saved the boy from the Xie family. He was so shocked that he almost stood up from his stool. What did you say? My Yubeo saved your boy? You must have made a mistake. How could his sweet-smelling and soft little granddaughter be able to catch ghosts? Made it wrong, made a mistake. There must be a mistake. Old man, we have seen this with our own eyes, and there is no mistake. Your granddaughter is extremely intelligent and talented, and she is already very capable at a young age. This time, thanks to your granddaughter, I was lucky enough to save my life. These are the thoughts of our husband and wife, I hope you will accept them. Finally, he handed over a bank card and said, there is 1 million in it, please give it to your granddaughter. Mr. Lu looked at the bank card on the table and was so shocked that he couldn't speak for a while. Although the Lu family is not short of money, 1 million cannot be taken out casually. Could it be that everything the other party said is true? His precious little granddaughter, is she really that capable? Although Mr. Gu on the side was also surprised, he quickly accepted it and laughed loudly, ha ha ha, she is indeed my favorite grandson-in-law. It's really a surprise. Mr. Lu turned around and glared at him, who do you want to call your granddaughter-in-law? He hadn't agreed yet. This old guy was so shameless. End of this chapter. Group Pet Koi Little Baby, she is soft and sweet. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 68. After chapter 68, he will protect her. The granddaughter happened to be at home, so Mr. Lu called her directly to ask. After learning that Yu Bao had indeed saved the boy from the Xie family, Mr. Lu was both proud and frightened. Especially after listening to the process of Yu Bao collecting ghosts, my heart felt like a roller coaster. This child is so bold that he even dares to do things like catching ghosts. How scary that ghost is, what if it hurts his precious little granddaughter? Happy that his little boy has learned such a great skill from the Taoist priest, which really gives him a lot of face. After Mr. Lu politely sent the Xie couple away, he wanted to scold his granddaughter, but when he saw his sweet and innocent little granddaughter's face, he couldn't even bear to say a single word of blame. I'm afraid that it will be heavy, hurt the heart of his baby's granddaughter, and will not kiss him in the future. Holding Xiang's soft little granddaughter in his arms, Mr. Lu directly changed his words and said, my dear baby is really amazing. He can catch ghosts at such a young age. However, we can't take such risks in the future. We must protect ourselves in case it hurts my family, my dear. Grandpa will be heartbroken. After saying that, he handed her the bank card, told her to keep it well, and let her play by herself. Yubeo has no concept of money. To her, money is just snacks. After Xiaojin told her that the money in the bank card could buy a lot of snacks, her eyes suddenly lit up. Wow, making money is much easier than earning points. Yubeo must save more people and make more money in the future. System, sure enough, for a foodie, nothing is more important than eating. She shouldn't have been allowed to exchange points for products, but should have exchanged them for food. It shouldn't be called the koi system, it should be called the snack shop. The host will definitely be more attentive when doing tasks. The old man was reluctant to teach his granddaughter a lesson, but he was not so polite to his grandson. As soon as Lu Su got out of school, the old man called him and scolded him severely, blaming him for taking his sister on an adventure. It was rare for Lu Su not to feel angry after being scolded. He also felt that he shouldn't have taken Yu Bao out last night. Fortunately, he met a little ghost last night. What if it was a powerful ghost? It's really too dangerous. Fortunately, my sister is safe, otherwise, even if Grandpa doesn't blame him, he himself will not forgive himself. After being trained by the old man, Lu Su turned around and went to find Yubeo, and saw that girl sitting in front of the TV, eating melon and watching cartoons, with her hands full of melon juice. Lu Su stepped forward and lifted her up from the ground. Yu Bao turned around and saw him. He immediately bent his eyes and smiled. He stretched out his soft little hands to hug him and said, "Brother? Are you back?" Lu Su glanced at her hand and immediately lifted her away in disgust. He took a wet towel and wiped her hands and face clean little by little before allowing her to come closer to him. The little boy hugged his neck and said excitedly, "Brother, brother, Yubao is rich, a lot of money. Can Yubao treat you to something delicious? Whatever brother likes, Yubao will buy it for you." Looking at the cute and sincere little face in front of him, and thinking of his previous attitude towards her, the half-grown boy was filled with shame. Really buying everything? Then I won't be polite. I heard that someone is now a little rich woman. Lu Su also heard about the fact that the Xie family gave Xiaoze 1 million. Originally, I thought that the Xie family would give a maximum of more than 10 or 200,000, but I didn't expect that the Xie family would offer 1 million. He was also startled when he first heard it. However, thinking about the fact that Xie Sui's life was exchanged for 1 million yuan, the Xie family would not suffer a loss. What's more, his sister took such a big risk and deserved no amount of money. Yubao nodded his head heavily, took out a bank card from the small pocket on the chest of his clothes, which was actually from the system, stuffed it into Lu Su's hand, puffed out his chest and said, "Yubao has money, brother, whatever you want buy." Lu Su looked at the card in his hand, feeling a little surprised, but also full of joy, with extremely complicated emotions. I didn't expect that one day I would be able to live a life of spending my sister's money. Lu Su held the bank card and said with complicated emotions, "Yu Bao, aren't you afraid that my brother will spend all the money?" Well. Yubao couldn't help but blinked when he heard the words. After a moment, he said in a sweet little voice, "Don't be afraid. Yubao will earn more after you spend it. Yubao is amazing. Brother, spend it as you like." However, after a pause, she looked at him with some embarrassment, "Brother, can you leave some snacks for Yubao?" "Okay." Lu Su finally couldn't hold back his laughter. His sister is so good, no wonder everyone likes her so much. His sister is so good, and everyone deserves to like her. Lu Su put the bank card back into Yubao's pocket and said, "Brother doesn't want Yubao's money. I will earn a lot of money on my own in the future, and I will buy snacks for Yubao, the most expensive and delicious ones in the world dessert." "Wow! Really? Brother is so kind." Yu Bao stared at his round eyes and kissed Lu Su on the face. "No, he is not good at all, he is the worst brother in the world. But from now on, he will work hard to be a good brother and the best brother in the world. But now, what he wants to talk to Yubao about is not money." Lu Su put Yu Bao on the ground and said to her seriously, "Yu Bao, listen carefully. You are not allowed to do anything casually in the future, let alone let others know that you know these things. Remember, the common man is not guilty, but he is guilty of carrying the jade. Didn't her parents say they would take her to recuperate? Why did she learn these Taoist techniques at such a young age? I heard that Koi town is just a very small town. Did she suffer a lot?" Lu Su doesn't know any of this. All he knew was, what if others knew about her ability and asked her to catch those powerful ghosts? What should I do if I am hurt by a ghost? His sister doesn't need to be very powerful, nor does she need to know these things, she just needs to be his sister well. From now on, he will protect her. Furthermore, I heard that practicing Taoism can easily cause 3 disadvantages and 5 deficiencies. Because you leak too many secrets, you will be punished by God and you will not be able to enjoy complete numerology like normal people. His sister is so cute, he hopes that she will be well, healthy and happy. I know, brother. Xiao Yubao nodded obediently. Xiao Jin also told her that she is still young and has not yet mastered Taoism. If she encounters a big ghost, she will be in big trouble. At the end, he asked again, "Brother, Are you concerned about Yubao? Yubao's big round eyes curved into a crescent shape again. He imitated an adult and touched Lu Su's head. He said in a soft voice, "Brother, don't worry." The Taoist priest said Yubao is very lucky, she said. But the koi carp has its own heaven and earth to protect her from evil. Xiaojin said that as long as she keeps doing good deeds, she will be able to accumulate evil virtues, and even if she reveals the secrets, she will not be harmed. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Group Pet Koi Little Baby, she is soft and sweet. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 69. Chapter 69. The Only Clue. Dad, the Xie family still refuses to disclose the master's contact information. In the ward, Cao Min looked at Cao Kun, who opened the door and saw that there was no other figure behind him, and couldn't help but frowned. It's too disrespectful to thank my family. We have already been so humble. We came to our door several times just to ask them to help introduce the master, but they are not even willing to help. Cao Kun looked tired. 3 days had passed, and Mr. Cao still showed no sign of waking up. However, the Xie family refused to reveal the master's information. They knew that the other party might have a way to revive the old man, but Xie's family didn't help. They didn't know where to find someone. How's the investigation going at the hospital? Cao Kun interrupted his son, who also wanted to lose his temper. But he knew in his heart that getting angry at this time was pointless. Without the old man here, no one would take the Cao family and their father and son seriously. Since the Xie family couldn't ask, they had no choice but to find a way to find out on their own. As long as the old man can wake up, the Cao family will still have a chance. Otherwise, there really would be no place for father and son to talk in Yunjing. I checked the video of the hospital that day. No one who looked like a master entered or left the Xie family's ward. However, 2 children came in the evening and did not leave until very late. Cao Min frowned and told the results of his investigation. Fortunately, the old man's remaining power is still there. He just adjusted the surveillance and has never been in trouble. Then I didn't find anything useful. Child, Cao Kun passed away as soon as he heard this and didn't take it to heart. After thinking about it, I know that the master cannot be related to 2 children. Yes, the older one looks like a middle school student, and the younger one must have just entered kindergarten. Only the 2 of them came that night, and they didn't leave until early in the morning. The Xie boy was discharged from the hospital the next day. Yes. It's impossible. The Xie family boy's awakening is related to these 2 children. How about I go see these 2 children? Cao Min wanted to check again. After all, this is the only clue. Of course, he didn't think these 2 children would be the masters. But is it possible that the master told those 2 children something? Through those 2 children, maybe we can find out something. It's better than them doing nothing. He didn't want to stay in the hospital all day long. No need. Cao Kun didn't think there was much that 2 children could do. Cao Min felt that the 2 children were quite suspicious, mainly because the time of their appearance and departure was too coincidental. If it was just an ordinary visit, why did he stay so late before leaving? Cao Min decided to investigate further, starting with the 2 children. Of course, the younger one was left alone. But the older one can find a way to ask. Cao Kun has a lawsuit on his forehead now, and he has no time to care about him. Have you found any information about those 2 children? After coming out of the ward, Cao Min asked some friends who used to hang out in the bar for help. He is usually generous and fun-loving, and he has a lot of friends. However, most of them are cunning friends. There is nothing else you can do, but you can still get some information. Brother Min, we have found out clearly that the brother and sister's surname is Lu, and they live in your old house of the CAO family. That boy and the boy from the CF family are classmates, and they have been studying in number 1 middle school for 2 days. Okay, thanks, I'll treat the brothers to a drink another day. After getting the information you want, the next step is to meet people. End of this chapter. Group pet koi little baby, she is soft and sweet. Author, Pearfish. Chapter 70. Chapter 70. Children Can't Lie. Lusu had just gotten off the bus and was about to walk home when he was surrounded by several people. These people are dressed in a fashionable manner, and they look like they are not doing their jobs properly. The leader among them is Cao Min. Boy, we want to ask you something. Several people directly blocked Lusu on the roadside. Lusu's eyes were cold. What do you want to ask? Ever since Yesui said that the Cao family was looking for the master that night, Lusu had paid special attention to the affairs of the Cao family, including the 3 generations of the Cao family. So as soon as Cao Min appeared, Lusu recognized him. Cao Min didn't talk nonsense to him and asked directly, "How much do you know about that boy from the Xie family?" The moment he saw the other party, Lusu had already guessed the other party's intention. "I don't know what you are talking about," he said. Cao Min looked at him with squinted eyes and said, "Let's put it this way, does the Xie family boy's coma and waking up that day have something to do with you? We won't embarrass you. As long as you tell us the address and contact information of the master, we will immediately let you go." Lusu said with a straight face, "What kind of master? I don't know." "You asked the wrong person. Boy, don't toast or eat as a penalty. I advise you to think carefully and answer carefully. I checked the hospital's surveillance and found that you and your sister were the only ones who went to the Xie family's ward that night. This matter must have something to do with you. Relationship. The Xie family has admitted that the master is helping. We just want the master's contact information. As long as you are willing to tell us, we will never embarrass you." Cao Min said with a threat. "Lusu, I did go to the hospital that day, but I just went to visit a friend. I don't know what kind of master or what kind of help. If you want to know, you should ask the Xie family. Boy, you don't need to pretend to be stupid in front of me. Since we have found you, we are sure that this matter is related to you. I advise you to cooperate obediently and don't force me." Cao Min was afraid that the other party would not tell the truth. The other party is young, so he just cheats. There were so many of them who tried to scare and deceive others, but luckily for this guy, he told the truth directly when he was scared. Unknown to everyone, Lusu had already seen through the other party's tactics and said without changing his expression, "I told you, I don't know anything. What do you want?" "Cao Min, if you don't want to tell us, we don't mind talking to your sister. I heard that children can't lie. I think she will remember what happened that night." A hint of anger flashed across Lusu's face. "You are not allowed to harass my sister." "Cao Min, then it depends on whether you are willing to cooperate. If you are willing to cooperate, we will naturally not scare the children, but if you are not willing to cooperate, then we will have to go and question your sister. I told you, we don't know anything. It's useless even if you go to find my sister. His sister is not an ordinary child. Even if these people come to the door, they will definitely not be able to ask anything." However, Lusu didn't want them to disturb the little boy. Not even if it might scare her. "Whether it's useful or not, I won't know until you look for it. What do you think?" Cao Min raised his eyebrows. Lusu raised his head, the anger in his eyes deepened, and said word by word, "I told you not to harass my sister." "Brother Min, why do I think this guy is threatening you?" someone among the people who came with Cao Min said. "Yes, Brother Min, it seems that this kid doesn't take you seriously at all. Should we teach him a lesson? Let's see if he tells the truth." "That's right, Brother Min, you are too sexual. Why are you talking so much nonsense to him?" If you want me to tell you, just give him a beating and then question him. Make sure he tells you everything he knows.